Yeah.
I have to delegate my button clicks. I see some folks coming in. Welcome, welcome. Interesting. I see one person is in 4 times. I wonder if that's a shared webinar invite. Must be either that or we have 4 Randalls. All right, for those that are in early, we'll get started in about a minute. But go ahead and put, if you are an instructor, go ahead and put what you teach out into the chat. If you're an ID, go ahead and throw that into the chat as well, so we kind of know what the audience looks like, and we will kind of customize the content that we go through today for that. And I'm saying ID, teacher education. Excellent. So yeah, so put out what you're teaching in the chat. Also, if you want to put out where you're actually, instead of where you're from, how about what LMS are you using would be super helpful as well. I tend to do demo in Canvas because, well, as we're seeing in the chat, a lot of people in Canvas. Um, we'll have probably about 20 plus people in this call, so the likelihood that I manage to get everybody in the same LMS is unlikely. Um, but yeah, so what you're teaching and what LMS are you using? And David and I are going to go through this, and we'll try to pull in examples when we're talking about things that really tie to some of the subject areas that you're in, so that we can make this more about the education side, less about the tool. Talk about some use cases and such as we dive into all this. So, okay, lots of nursing. All right, well let's get started. I'll do some introductions, and then as people filter in, they can join on in. So, for those that don't know me, I do recognize a lot of names, but my name is Marcus. I'm one of the owners of Harmonize. I have with me David, who does a lot of our trainings and a lot of our webinars when he's highlighting some of the work that instructors do. So he and I spend a lot of time talking to instructors, trying to figure out the interesting ways they're using our tools, because we have learned so much from how instructors kind of put things through the paces that we'll be sharing some of those examples as well. So today's agenda. We're not going to spend a lot of time on discussions today. This is the training above and beyond discussions. I can definitely highlight a little bit about what our discussion product does, but most of our other webinars and trainings focus on that because that's where most people begin. If there's anyone who doesn't know what the discussion tool looks like inside of Harmonize, can you please put that in the chat? You're welcome to do it to everyone, or you're welcome to do it to host and panelist if you prefer. And then we will cover a little bit of it. And then David has some group webinars coming up to cover more in depth the discussion, as well as more in depth on peer review. And he can put those links out in the chat if you want to go dive deep into those. Don't see anyone messaging us on the discussion side. So that's good. But someone has not seen it yet. All right, cool. Seen it but not used it. Perfect. So the way we're going to structure today's webinar is that it harmonizes, most people begin with the discussion tool set, but there are so many other things to do with it, and we've been getting more feedback that there's almost too much to do with it for people to really know what's out there and what else they may want to work with. How else do they want students to engage in their class? And so the way I'm going to structure today's call is kind of from a day one of the class. How can you sort of build the engagement level as you go with the different tools? Like, how do you start small, start simple, kind of pull students in to do different tasks before you get into much more of the deeper, in-depth um, areas of peer connectivity? So I'm going to do this in Canvas because I think everybody said they were Canvas. Yeah, that is awesome. Yay. That makes my life easier. Um, Sorry, so let me go ahead and share my screen and we will dive in. Please, logistics wise, put any questions you have. You're welcome to put them into the chat. David's going to be helping me monitor the chat. You're welcome to put them in Q&A. We have a small enough group at around 20 that if you have a complicated question that you do want to ask in voice and you're comfortable with that, you're welcome to put that in the chat, and we can click the whole allow to talk button for you to come in and be able to do that as well. So, all right, diving in. Um, the way I think about our tool set is that um, the whole goal is to get students to engage. And many students are not accustomed to engaging throughout the entire course. Like, there are these points where it's like, I'm going to go engage now in the discussions and that's it. But really the tool set expands beyond that to some degree. So imagine your students are coming in and they are just starting the class. They're staring at module 1. The easiest engagement point that we have for students is what's called a poll. So you can run a very, very simple series of questions, a survey directly in your modules to be able to get your students to answer some questions to be able to see what's going on in the class. This is their very first engagement point. You can do this in two ways. Some instructors just run a poll that has a series of questions in it that students can answer. I'm looking at the instructor view, so I have a couple controls here, but students would just see the multiple choice questions. We see instructors put things out like, hey, read the syllabus and read the modules. What's going to be, you think, the hardest module to work through? What do you think is going to be the most enjoyable module to work through? Those types of questions, so that it's causing the students to go out and look ahead a little bit and think about things, think about the course content, and have a point where you're actually asking their opinion as well. So they are contributing to the teaching process. You'll notice in this particular instance, David actually built this one for us because he did some work with an anatomy professor, and the professor was actually wanting them to consume some content and be able to answer some poll questions about it. So some instructors will actually say, like, read the syllabus and answer some poll questions about the syllabus. In this case, it's watch a YouTube video as an overview of the anatomy class we're going to be covering, and then answer some questions around, for example, which system of the body is going to be the one you're most fascinated in, or those types of things. So we're training students that their feedback is important. We're getting them to get used to the fact that they're giving feedback and seeing what their peers are doing, because the default configuration for these is when I click and vote on these, I will see what the rest of the class said as well. This could have been a document to read. It could have been a video. It could have been you doing a PowerPoint presentation using all of the tools that Harmonize offers. It's the standard editor. You could do a mini screen share and talk about things. You could actually share your syllabus and highlight it and talk about with screen share what you think is important in the syllabus to draw students' attention to. And these can be graded. This particular one is set up to be auto-graded, meaning that if the students answer the question, they get the points. It has a deadline. It's in their to-do list. So they will come and do it. Because they're seeking the grade. And obviously it's a very minuscule part of their grade as well. Important part about this is there are no correct answers. So this is super low anxiety. This is not a quiz. This is literally a survey. They can answer, and there is no correct answer. They can answer whatever they want, and they will get the points. This can be used not just in module 1, that's where I'm touching on it now because it's sort of getting the students into that prep mode of engagement, but you'd also can use it throughout the modules. We have a lot of instructors use this as sort of the encouragement to consume content, which is one of the things we're going to be talking about is like, why aren't your students reading? Or how do I get my students to read so that they're actually prepped for class? That can be an in-person class or an online discussion. Like if they've done the reading ahead of time, the discussions are going to go better. If they've consumed the video or watched the content or listened or whatever it is, can we get them to do so? Obviously, this is not forcing them to read, because I could just run through and be like, click, 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 and answer each of the poll questions and get the points. But in that case, if they all do that, you're going to see a wide smattering of answers, and you'll be able to get a feel for where they're coming from and see where the disagreements are in the class, and et cetera.
Marcus, something I'll just point out real quick is the instructor I talked to, she actually, if you scroll down, she worded some of the questions as opinion based, but then some of them you needed to watch the video to know the answer. So while you're not grading on whether or not the answer is correct or not, it kind of does prompt the student to make sure they are doing the reading or watch the video to be able to understand the answers that are within the questions. So
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I see these here. I hadn't paid attention to it, so thanks for that. To where it's like, which contains the thyroid gland, which group, et cetera, which the renal system is another name for what group. So she is actually lacing some quiz-like questions in here, but answer what you want. You're going to get the points anyway. Important to note, entirely anonymous. So these are meant to be super chill. You can't actually see who's answered what. You can just see the overall survey. The students can't see who answered what. They can just see the overall survey results as well. So this is step 1 in engagement. Super easy to add, auto-graded, so you're not taking on a burden. Throw your readings in this way and have them actually do it coupled with the reading. See if you get slightly higher compliance on your reading from your students. This is called a poll. I'm talking about it in a graded perspective. You can also add them as ungraded, although your participation will be lower because ungraded doesn't have a, entry in the grade book. It doesn't have a to-do list item as an assignment, et cetera. All right, so remember, questions can go in the chat, questions in the Q&A, but I'm going to march forward into different engagement strategies now. So get them in, and I can always come back to this if we have different questions as well. One last thing on polls before I move on. You can put these into your discussions or assignments or anything else as well. You can include them in the topic instructions. We do have some student instructors that actually use this as a feedback mechanism from their students. So they will, every discussion prompt will have a poll at the end of it of like, how did you feel about this activity? And then they will actually adjust their course next semester if their feedback on an activity was like, oh, hated that type of thing. And it also gives the students a chance to sort of express their opinion, take a little more ownership of what they felt about the different pieces of the course. All right. Let me go back in here. So the next thing I want to talk about is laced into the modules on this topic of like, how do we get students to actually do the readings? How do we get them to consume content? We have a tool that we call PDF annotations, where it's basically like upload whatever you want your students to read, give them a series of instructions of what you want them to do when they're reading, and then have them actually come through and actually highlight and drop pins on the doc and have a full-blown conversation around interesting parts of the document. A little note on the research of why this is good. Two things to start with. It's gradable. It's actually going to be auto gradable come this fall, come mid fall. We're actually working on adding our multiple due date feature and our auto grading feature to this. So you can actually assign points to the readings, and if they come through and do a certain number of annotations, they're going to earn the points. Obviously, doesn't guarantee they're reading the entire article, but it brings them in with the expectation on a due date that they're actually going to read things. Second, right now, if you ask students to do the reading, they can copy and paste the whole thing, throw it into AI, ask it to summarize, and move on with their day. And that's not the same level of time spent with the content, nor is it the same level of comprehension of detail and the sort of active reading skills that we're looking for. When you do it this way, and they are tasked with highlighting interesting things, they have to at least find the interesting things in the document and highlight them and or drop pins on them if it's something that's more visual. And so now we are giving them a task that is actually either active because they're having to highlight things, or we can also ask them to interact with each other. So we're going beyond active to the interactive stage. That is super important because the research, there's this framework out of ASU called ICAP. Okay, what it stands for: interactive, constructive, active, passive. Passive is the least comprehension you can get out of students, but you move them up to scale to where they are actually interacting when they are consuming content, and you can get a 10% bump in sort of the outcomes and the comprehension levels. So just getting them to thrash around with each other with the actual content is a great way to be able to work with it. And so we're teaching students here, like, hey, every reading is interactive as well. Like, you are interacting with your peers. It is such an important part of the class. Do the reading and respond to each other, and you're going to get points for that. But it's so important that you interact with each other and ask questions of each other, that that's an important part of learning. I see a question came in about small groups. Can the PDF annotation tool be assigned into small groups instead of the whole class? And the answer is yes. I will say yes with a caveat, a little star next to it. For all you Canvas users and Blackboard users, the answer is yes today. If anyone joined late or didn't answer and they are a Moodle or a D2L user, we are adding groups to Moodle and D2L this fall. So come next spring, you'll be able to do so. And it's a good point, because if you have 100 people in a class, there's not going to be any space left to highlight. And so they're going to be stepping on each other's toes. You can see that's sort of already happening here to where there are two people have highlighted the same paragraph, and how do you get to that type of thing? So you have two options. You can break them into groups. That's done when you're setting up the activity in the edit screen. And or you can encourage them to use pins, because students can drop pins as much as they want around a section and highlight it using that, and do the same sort of commentary where there is a comment attached to each one of these pins as they go through. So two different options there to be able to avoid stepping on each other's toes. These don't have to be written documents. Like if you are, for example, doing a web design class, I've had instructors that actually print the web page to PDF, so they get a static capture of what the web page looked like. They upload it and they ask them to critique the design and the user experience, the information layout, etc. Same thing for art classes. If we have a PDF with like 3 pieces of work in it and we want them to drop pins and critique different parts of the art, they can do that as a social activity. They're not highlighting text. Instead, they're using this little pin here. They click on the pin, and then they can drop notes onto individual articles here. So this is the table of contents or something along those lines. Also useful when doing complicated reading. So for science classes, if we're doing research articles can be hard to read. And so you can actually have some collaboration going around some of the more difficult parts of the research articles, legal documents as well, having them critique contracts. You asked about small groups. You can actually put this entirely private mode as well. If you want them to privately read the document and make their own notes, you can do so. For all you Canvas users, this opens up in SpeedGrader. For the others, you can click on Grades and Activity and be able to actually grade the work. And as I said, what we expect most people to do come fall is to turn on the auto grading feature, because this is a formative reading. It's a formative assignment. We're trying to get the students to thrash around and ask questions. So as long as they've done the work, written the right number of words if we want, we can then automatically give them points. So we're not shouldering more work as an instructor to grade these things, but we're getting them to do so to get them to annotate these documents. We have some instructors that will actually replace the discussion with this. So if the discussion is traditionally, let's do the readings and then let's talk about it, they just mash the two of those together and say, do the reading and talk about it all while you're doing the reading. And so they actually get this sort of sidebar conversation going. The conversation in these is mostly text in the sidebar. They don't really do the video tools that we're accustomed to. So if you're looking for doing more things that um, are more video based and such, then you would still have the conversation and the discussion after the fact. So this is kind of your next engagement point. We started with polling just to get their opinions. We started with reading content or watching content plus poll to try to encourage them to read and think when they're doing it. They can see the questions and what they should be doing in the video. This is that next step of like, okay, here's a full-blown reading or document. I want you to interact with each other when you're in there doing the document, or do private note taking on the document. All of that is configurable from the edit screen when you're setting up this activity. And you tell them, I have the instructions collapsed, but you tell them what you want them to do. You can see I even threw a poll question in my instructions here. So you can tell them exactly what you want them to accomplish as well. This is the next step up the line. All right, any questions on document annotation here? A thing to note, I'm not going to go demo this part, but we've added this level of highlighting and commenting of documents into the standard discussion as well. So this didn't used to be there. If you're an old school Harmonize user, that's something that's probably new to you, or if you're brand new, of course, it's new to you. But the idea is like you can now, anywhere you find a document like this one is purely social. The other one, if you're in the discussion, people are getting their own copy and critiquing it. So it's more of a document critique versus an interactive discussion with it. But this highlighting and pin dropping feature is now available in most places in Harmonize. All right, I'm going to talk about a couple more sort of low stakes engagement points before we get into some of the more high stakes ones. So next one up, we have a Q&A area, question and answer area. Let's see, I have a question real quick. Can students hide the content of the selections so that they can actually read the content? There's this little eyeball here that if I click on it hides everything so they can read the content. We don't turn that off by default. We don't have, which is kind of interesting, but we don't have, you're not going to see their annotation until you have your own type of feature, but they can turn them off to be able to then read the content without being in by doing. Why? Having a place for Q&A for your students is fantastic. It lets them ask questions, it lets them see each other's questions, it lets them answer questions. Students are not in the habit of doing this inside the LMS. If they have a question right now, they have been trained, go to the TA or go to the teacher, go ask your question there. And so they will do so. So these, when they are used and they are, I will say, pushed a little bit or marketed to the students a little bit or made really obvious that this is a great place to ask questions, they can do so. And it works very similar to our discussions, with the difference being that they are asking questions and you can actually nominate one of the responses as best answers, those types of things. You can upvote individual answers, good and questions. So those types of things here help kind of build this knowledge base of what people are concerned about in the course. Also questions about course structure structure. But once again, if you don't tell your students, obviously, that this is here and redirect them to that when they ask questions, you're still going to get a flood of questions come in your email. That's just what students have been trained to do. So we often say, put this in is great. Make sure that your students know it's there. Make it obvious. Maybe put it in every module, or if you want, and make the title of it say, like, ask all of your questions here. You as the instructor or the instructor will get notified. Like on any of our things, you can turn on watch topic and get notified when things come in. But for the course Q&A, the instructors will all get notified when a student asks the question, regardless of if they are watching the topic or not, because it's really bad for a student to ask a question and for an instructor not to know it's there. This is great, not just from a questioning perspective, but think from an anxiety perspective. Like there's a lot of studies that show students have this sense of belonging. Am I, imposter syndrome? Do I belong in this class? Am I as smart as everyone else? And having Q&A forums is actually one way to sort of let them see everybody is asking questions about the content. There is sort of this general, we are all in this together type of thing, which helps their sense of belonging, which can contribute to retention and sort of good vibes. So, so something important to think about. This comes in two flavors. The course Q&A, like if I put a course Q&A in every single module, it would be the same questions every time I clicked on it. So if I put course Q&A in modules 1, 2, and 3, and then I clicked on it in module 3, I'm still going to see this help with my algebra problem question. We have another version of this that is called topic-specific Q&A. So if you know module 7 is the theory of relativity and it's going to be really difficult, you can put a theory of relativity homework questions go here. And then it's a different pool of questions just dedicated to whatever that topic is for that week as well. Okay. That's Q&A. Chat is almost a non-academic version of it. And so we often say, put it into your class and students can chat with each other if they want to. This is almost always non-academic because the instructor cannot access it. They open up the chat tool and they have sharing files. They could be doing group work in an academic setting, but often it's just asking each other questions about the class, having a background chat. We store all of this. It's all accessible to your admins upon request, but the instructor does not have access unless they're explicitly included in the thread. So it's just a multi-person direct message. This one is between 4 students and they're sharing files back and forth to compare pets or who knows. But the idea is build that peer connectivity on non-academic topics so that by the time they're talking about something in your class, they can do so, but also an easy way for them to drop files back and forth if they're doing group projects and working on things, etc. Okay. So all of this is to get to the point where you're familiar with our discussions. Now we want the students to interact in the discussion. The peer connectivity goes up if you've done a lot of these scaffolding things to get them to the point of either their first discussion or first assignment or what have you. So if you can think about things in this realm of like we are kind of building the level of engagement as they go so that the entire course has some sort of interactivity in it so that by the time they get to the discussion, they commented on Bob's comment in the reading, so they've already interacted with Bob. By the time they get into a discussion where they're doing more application of that knowledge, then they already have some touch points with each other. Much like this is the same reason Quality Matters recommends putting a introduction topic in module 1. Get the students interacting in a way that is non-academic, so by the time we get to the academic, they can actually interact more meaningfully with each other. Oh, did you launch a poll, David? Look at that. That was you, David. I assume I didn't accidentally launch a poll, or did I accidentally launch that?
I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you had polls configured in this. Did you go do that on the fly?
I was, yes. I was working off of what your presentation was. There you go.
Pretty impressive. We're going to go into some different, more in-depth areas to use Harmonize in a moment. I'll let this one run out. It looks like pollings and PDF annotations are the 2 most popular one. Q&A and chat. Hopefully I didn't bias people by telling them they're least used, but they are sort of holding to that, the least used. I think polls are the easiest to use and a great way for students to start chiming in. The PDF annotations, we've argued about actually calling it make the students do the reading because it's such a complaint for instructors of like students who don't read. And so, but people may not know what PDF annotation is. We might change the name of that to social reading or something along those lines as we get more into it so that instructors are more aware of what it means. All right, let me end that poll. Thank you, David. See, David's making our thing more interactive with polls as well. That was so meta, David. Um, all right, so a couple things that are new in Harmonize as well. The two tools we launched this summer. If you're have been with us for more than just the past month or two, we are doing both assignments and peer review tools inside of Harmonize. I'm going to start with the peer review tools, and I'm guessing a lot of you are thinking, I don't teach English, I don't want to do peer review, but bear with me because there are a lot of very compelling reasons to do this, and it's actually not a huge lift for you as an instructor. As well. So what I'm going to preach here is that peer review can be used in every single class. It's not just an English assignment anymore, and I'll go through why. But first, I'm going to cover why it's important. Uh, Text-only assignments can be written by AI. Most assignments can be completed by AI. How do we combat that? Um, there's two main strategies, three, I'll call it three main strategies. The first one is step away from text, do multimedia stuff. That's good from a universal design for learner perspective because students can express themselves in different ways. It's also good because it's harder for AI to do. Like if you ask AI right now to generate a video of Marcus talking about engagement activities inside of Harmonize, it's not going to be able to do it unless they pay for some very expensive AI tools and give it some content. So stepping away from text can help. The problem with that is that if you ask students to respond in video, you as the instructor have now gathered 30 people in your class, each with a 3-minute video, and it's quite a bit more time to be able to do. This leads into the second thing, which is a sense of social belonging and peer connectivity. Kind of tamps down on cheating. So if the students are actually formally responsible for peer reviewing each other, and they are doing that in a multimodal way, that both of those combined make it a lot less likely that they're going to use AI just to brute force complete the assignment. They can still use AI to help with the assignment, and I actually don't have any problems with using AI to help the assignment as long as you give them guidance. But the end result is not something that can just be produced by AI. And the third thing that implies here is intrinsic motivation. Like there's some research that shows that if the instructor is enthusiastic and excited, that the student's going to be less likely to cheat. And so if you're getting the students to interact with each other and that's all being handled and auto-graded by our system and they're all interacting and your whole job is just to be like, wow, that was awesome, or nice work, or love what you did there with this image, etc. That sort of energy and that sort of that enthusiasm actually drives down cheating inside of a class versus if you're not present or if you're just the person responsible for grading, though that is an extrinsic motivation of they were just chasing the grade, you just happen to be the person that's handing out the grade. All of those combine to help tamp down on AI writing. So now let's talk about peer review and why I want peer review to be used everywhere. We do what's called multimodal peer review. So our peer review tools look a whole lot like our discussion. And so for those that are familiar with the discussion or those that even haven't played with it much yet, peer review and the discussion look, the layout's very, very similar. So there's our multiple due dates across the top. This one's going to be auto-graded for completion. Each of the student submissions is a card. The difference here is that this is their assignment post, and then they have to complete 2 peer reviews. And the difference here is that this first card is their assignment, and then it walks them through filling out these other 2 by saying, well, your next card is going to be Laverne's work that you're doing a peer review of, and the next card is going to be the second person that we give you a peer review of. A lot of you are probably thinking like, if you have tried peer review in Canvas, it's a nightmare. All of that stuff goes away with this. We'll talk about that in a moment, but first I'm going to delve into what does multimodal peer review means. You can give your students any assignment. Let me go back to my chat here and let's name a couple of them. We can look in. Saw a criminal justice one there. You could actually have them go find crime scenes and have them annotate each other's crime scenes of what is an important detail, so that they are both self-analyzing a crime scene and then they are critiquing each other's analysis of a crime scene, if that's something you do in criminal justice. The nursing programs, like you could actually do role play videos where they are doing practice triage with the nurses, with each other, and they're critiquing each other's triage practice. And your whole job as the instructor is just to sit back and watch and pick and choose which ones you want to take a look at and offer your own sort of constructive criticism. So I can walk through the setup of this as we go, but basically the students come in, they get a big blue button, they click continue peer review. We handle the late work aspect. We handle the add drops. You are not assigning peers to peers and trying to figure that out. We're taking care of all of that for you. And the students are given the work. I've already started this one, so I'll show you what a partially complete peer review looks like. Here's a student who wrote some stuff. They uploaded a document. They uploaded an image. They uploaded a slide deck. This one is obviously quite complex. They did a video recording. They did a PowerPoint presentation and presented slides straight inside of Harmonize. And this is me as an anonymous student reviewing their work. I have done some line item critique of their essay. Like if I were to actually come into this, it shows that this was their essay and I highlighted things and left notes about it. I've actually critiqued their presentation as well. I dropped some pins on their PowerPoint slides and critiqued it. I drew on their images and left notes. I actually left timestamp commentary on their videos and am in the process of adding more. So they can critique all of the media stuff that they want using those same tools they're accustomed to using, either offering their own video reflections or each of our individual media up here at the top, as I scroll back up, has things like respond within video. It has things like add notes to it, etc., so that they can do this multimodal response back and forth to each other. Let me look at some of the other things here. So looks like nursing I covered. Veterinary medicine, I don't know, maybe that would fall more into the anatomy thing of systems and the body and or case studies of like, here's a case of a sick animal and I'm trying to diagnose it. We have people do podcasts and history classes. We have them do like video reflections on current political situations as they're going through. We have them actually, if they're trying to teach a class, we have them do a sample teaching because you can up this to allow an hour of video if you want. Obviously, as an instructor, you would never do an hour of video with all 30 students because that's a lot. But if they do a sample teaching session and they are tasked with going in and actually, watching the video and pausing it at minute 1, 7, 9, 15, 25, 27, 30, and leave comments along the way, it's more appropriate in grad classes as they're doing that deep level of critique, then you are really getting them to interact well with each other. And then they publish it and it becomes another review along the way. The setup of this is as simple as the setup of a discussion. We do all of the work to make sure that everybody gets an equal number of reviews. I won't go into the depth of this right now. We have separate peer review trainings if you want to pick this up, or we can spend some time at the end. But the goal was to not require any craziness from the instructor of tracking this down and making it clunky. You open this stuff up in SpeedGrader. We auto-graded it if you wanted. If the student got their assignment in and got their peer reviews in, they got the points. And then you can just sort of watch what's happening and interact with them sort of from that cheerleader or steering them if you're like that. I actually disagree with your peer review here of what you said with them, etc. You can do that. This one is huge because this is the deepest level of interaction that we offer, but it does not require much more time or frankly any more time than monitoring a standard discussion. But in this case, the difference between this and the standard discussion is that students are assigned to each other. So we're getting an even distribution of critique. They are given a more formal critique role. And in fact, coming next Wednesday, they will actually be able to fill out the rubric for each other if you want. So it's like, I'm looking at your work and I'm telling you on rubric criteria 1, this is what you did. And I'm leaving a comment so they can do that level of critique as well. So you can cause really, really deep peer connectivity with this. And it's as easy to set up as the discussion is not. So I'm on a peer review high horse right now because of complaints about discussions we get sometimes. The early students get all the commentary. Not everybody's getting comments. The critiques are pretty shallow. They're saying, I agree with Bob, those types of things. This is a way to create some peer pressure and some formal structure to be able to give deeper peer critiques and accomplish the same thing the discussion wants to do as well. That was 1,000 million words about peer review, but I'm going to pause and take questions on peer review before I go into sort of also the assignment settings as well.
Marcus, could you quickly go over how we're making it easier for instructors to manage the peer groups?
Sure. So by default, you don't have to set up peer assignees. So I know in Canvas, if you're familiar with Canvas, you have to go and be like, Bob's going to review Jack and Janet, Janet's going to review Bob, and you have to do that whole thing. And if someone's late on their work, it's a nightmare. And if someone gets dropped from the class, it's a nightmare. If someone gets added to the class, it's a nightmare. The default mode is to stop that whole process, and we will handle that whole process for you. So when the student comes in, let's say Nick had only submitted his work here. This card right here would say start peer review. When he clicks start peer review, we are going to go look at everybody in the class and be like, well, who has the fewest peer reviews? And we are going to pick that person out and give them to Nick to review. And so we're balancing out who's getting reviews. So even if Bob submits his work late, we will still get him up next in line to be able to get a review. You can still control this as an instructor. So if you do want to more manually control the grouping, you just set up a Canvas group or a Blackboard group, put the students in that you want. We'll do that same algorithm, but we'll be picking from the individual groups that belong to. So you as the instructor still have control if you want it, but you don't have to actually do the assignment. You can just break the class into groups and let the pools continue that way.
Had a couple of questions here also about can the students see the whole class submissions in comments or only the one or two that they're assigned?
Great question. Right now, it's only the one or two that are assigned. We have intent to be able to do a broader, like expand of like, hey, is this, everybody can look at everyone's if they want. We're kind of waiting to see if instructors request that before we build it, because we try not to build things that instructors may not use. So that feature's not there right now. Right now, they'll only see the work that they're assigned to in their own work. Carrie asked a great question about digital accessibility with multimedia assignments and PDF annotations. So I'm going to start with the PDF annotations. As long as you upload a PDF that does have a text layer, it is navigable with keyboard, it is highlightable, it's entirely, all of that stuff can be managed that way. From a video perspective, right now, we are auto captioning the videos, and coming in the spring, we are actually going to be doing audio descriptions of the videos as well. So if we are pushing people to do multimedia, we are using machines to auto caption them so they can read captions of everything said. And then starting in the spring, like I was saying, we will be able to do AI generate audio descriptions of those. The auto captions can be edited. The audio descriptions will be able to be edited. The goal would be, and I will put the caveat, we don't expect students to do this, but the goal would be that if a person cares and or the instructor was more likely to do this, they can see what was generated by the machines and change them as they go. I have seen the initial work coming from audio descriptions out of our AI work on it. I just got the first one 2 days ago. My mind was blown at how well it did. And I know I'm supposed to be the cheerleader for the company, but we're going to be getting this out for folks to play with so you can see what it looks like. But it's going to do the pre-fill, and then instructors and or an instructional designer can come back through and tweak it so that you don't have to do the bulk of the work. So it's a great question, because if you're pushing people into multimodal, you might leave different learners behind if they have a disability. How do we accommodate that as best as we can? Okay, got a question from Evan. What does the bunch of questions here? What does the inline annotation comment tool look like for instructors on the original post submission? Is it different than Canvas's SpeedGrader tool? So let me see if I have an example of this. The way it works is that it opens up directly inside of SpeedGrader to be able to annotate it. I am not 100% confident that I will be able to find an example. Let me think about this for a second.
Actually, if you use that one, go back to the peer review and click on speaker, you should be able to show that.
No, I can't.
No.
No. Trying to think. I think my creative introduction ones has a person that wrote in it and did a PDF, and I'll just open it in SpeedGrader and talk through where it would appear if I don't actually have that. So a note about how we do SpeedGrader. We put everything inside of the SpeedGrader panel for you, and everything that you can do here is exactly what you would be able to do inside of the standard discussion or inside of the standard peer review or assignments. So this respond by drawing link, if this had been a PDF, it would say add notes. I click respond by drawing. For the drawing tool, it's going to open it up down below here for me to be able to begin to draw on, etc. here. If this had been a PDF, it would open up, allow me to highlight, close it, and then it would give a summary of the notes directly in line here for me to see. We don't make the student go back into the document unless they want to. We will summarize what was highlighted and what was critiqued. I wish I had a PDF. So that's a badness on my part. And so they will be able to do it directly in line here and then give the grade or rely on the auto grade to be able to do that as well. Let's see, a couple questions came in. Will Hampton said, did you say audio descriptions? Yes, Will, audio descriptions. There's a new, for those that don't know, there's a new federal requirement coming down April 24th of next year that all video content from schools have to have audio descriptions. For those that don't know audio descriptions, that is if I wave my hand in the video, somehow the blind person needs to know an old man with a gray beard raised his right hand and was waving at the screen. So we are actually putting that as an audio track on the video. We're reading the videos with AI and putting that in place to be able to do so. This is a requirement for everything a university does. So if you're not aware of this yet, go read about it. The Title II requirements are changing, and this is now a mandatory piece. So yeah, we're doing that with AI. I see Sarah has, let's see, personally, I'd love to have the ability for students to see all submissions, to show off their final projects, and make sure every student gets some feedback, knows someone looked at it. That is, yeah, I think you're 100% correct. That is the use case, and we support that use case. The real question is how many instructors will do it. It's like, okay, we all have done the work, we've critiqued each other's work, and now we want to do the grand reveal and all take a look at everybody else's work to be able to do so. Right now, we just don't have that feature. So you're right, totally educationally sound, and that is exactly where our heads went of like, it would be great to do that as well. What we do see people do, and that segues into the next thing, is they use the peer review tool, but then they set up an actual, what we call an individual assignment. So let's say I'm in a communications class and I wanted to do PowerPoint presentations and practice my presentation skill. Also coming out next Tuesday, when you're doing a presentation now inside of Harmonize, when you click create new post and then you click screen share and share your screen straight into Harmonize, you'll also be able to record your talking head. So you can do a full PowerPoint presentation, recording the presenter, recording the screen that they're sharing, present it, go through a peer review process. Use our AI coach, which we can talk about in a minute, get the peer review going. They will then create a final assignment and be like, okay, you went through that. Now here's your final step. Do that same thing, but now you've gotten all that critique from your peers, from myself, whatever it is. Submit your final capstone project. Do the PowerPoint presentation using the same tools you used. So you can actually set up a harmonized individual assignment to be able to take that. So it doesn't have to be a discussion. It doesn't have to be a peer review. We now have support that you can do multimodal individual assignments. So all kinds of ways to engage your students from start to finish. Think about not just doing text. I think that is one of the main things when you, even when you're in our discussion, et cetera, if you're teaching English, even have them write an essay. Have them write an essay and submit it, and then have them self-critique it and highlight it, or have them screen share and actually talk about the writing process, because that causes them to have to go deeper. Great learning practice. It also is harder for AI to do, so it makes it harder for them to just write an essay with AI and roll on. So you can really start to document the process of some of these things using any of these tools, individual assignments, discussions, peer review, et cetera, to be able to give that sort of deep critique with each other. So peer review, I consider the deepest one. Polling is the simplest one. So when you're thinking about your class and what you're willing to add on, I don't recommend going and rebuilding an entire course like this unless you're an ID and you're on it. And start small. You've added a couple discussions, go throw in a couple polls, maybe take one of your readings and move it into a social annotation, see how it goes, because you don't want to make the students do 7 million engagement points. You want them to do what's appropriate, where it's appropriate, and where the learning really matters. But that's the whole toolbox, is like, get them to do discussions, do the discussions inside the documents, get them to peer review each other's work, have them submit their final assignment with multimedia assets as well in the final assignment. Have all of that happen as your class progresses as well. Okay, I don't know if I covered all the questions or not, but I'm happy to come back to any of these tools. I'm happy to show how to set up any of these things if there was something you were particularly interested in seeing the setup on. I also have help docs on how to set up all of these things, and I'll show you how to get to those because they are embedded directly inside of Harmonize now, as well as in our help center. So I'll go ahead and start to set up one of these so you can see the new help docs and the new help locations. Most everything we're doing, we are starting with a a Canvas assignment, which is how we make them gradable. And now when you go into that Canvas assignment and you edit it and you hook it up to Harmonize, the documentation for each and every one of these things is available as you're deciding which tool you want to use. So you pick external tool and say find and pick Harmonize. And now we are going to actually list out each and every of the tools that we offer. And each one has a question mark to an interactive video to be able to help you decide what you want to do. So you want to do peer review, that's here. There's a guide to it. You want to do that individual assignment I was talking about, there's a guide to it. And Helen asked a question about polls. This poll here would be me embedding it. It's not on a Canvas page, but I can embed it straight into the modules. So I can make an entire module entry a poll. That can have whatever content you want in it. Can have a video and poll or readings and poll, etc. But you're not creating a Canvas page and putting a poll in it. You are creating a harmonized poll as a module entry for them. So if I were to actually, I called this peer review, but let's say I was calling it a poll. And I'll rename it a poll. And, oh, not assignment. I don't want that in my assignment group. Let's call it an assignment. We're going to call it a poll. So now I've basically have made a module entry with a that I want my students to complete the poll by the 28th. And when I save it, it's going to drop me straight into that poll to configure it as well. Sarah did highlight you can actually add, I did say you can add these to discussions. That is correct. You can add these to instructions on anything. You could add these to instructions on a document that you're having your students annotate. You can add these to a discussion, to an assignment, to whatever you want. And then you can put whatever you want here as well. So you can be like, read the syllabus and what do you think my office hour policy is? And then you can put in answers here about, I don't have them, come anytime you want, those types of things. You build out the poll questions and you notice the same bar here is available that's available in a lot of Harmonized things. So I could have, shared my screen. I could have recorded a video. I could have, added files, media files and such interspersed with these polls. And it does show directly in the module. So if I publish this guy now, and then I come back to my modules, I think at the very end, here's the poll. So if I come into this poll now, it has whatever it was I wrote about office hours inside of that poll, and people can come in and directly answer them. And 100% of the people have said, I don't have any office hours. So Helen, yeah, let me find you and unmute you. There you are, allowed to talk. Go ahead.
Great. So the reason I'm asking is because the course design rubric that the California Community College system has adopted, one of the rubric items is that instructors provide contextual instructions for any activity, that they not include a direct link to something in the module without providing students instructions. So a direct link for the poll for a face-to-face or a hybrid might be okay because maybe they already heard about it when they were in class, but for an asynchronous course, it would kind of go against what we have worked very hard the last number of years to get faculty to learn to do, which is to embed links on a page so they can provide instructions. So
Yep.
I'm just offering that as something for you to consider. And maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're telling me about how it shows up in the module.
Yes, let me go ahead and show you here. So because it's an assignment, you can do a couple things. You can put the context description straight onto the assignment item so that when I save this and the student comes in, it has the context for the poll at the start for them to be able to
What does
answer
it
it.
look like in the module?
Here inside the module, if we did poll, it will just say poll right
Okay,
here.
but the little icon, okay, so it doesn't show like your chat one shows a direct link. That's what we're trying to break instructors of the habit of. But this shows as an assign. Okay, so
Yep.
ignore my question. It's all good.
Cool. And the other thing that we recommend people do as well is definitely, put some context inside of here. Like if I'm asking polls, I could go ahead and record some context in video and say, like, it's really important that I know what you guys are worried about in the upcoming semester. So here's what I'm thinking to do. Here's what I'm really looking for feedback. Here's what I'm going to do with the feedback so that they have some context and they can hear from me and then they can answer the poll questions. Or I could have brought in whatever I want. I could have added a text row and described that in text as well. And then let's say I wanted this at the top. Now the students would come in, they would read the context I put in the assignment, the instructions, they would watch my video, they would answer the poll question I had built. And so you can build whatever depth of content you want as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for that depth of question. That is great. Other questions or things people would like me to come back to?
Marcus, can you also go in and show how you add different items in the instruction area? Because there was a question about how to add a poll to like the instructions of a peer review or a discussion assignment.
Okay, let me go in and edit my discussion topic in this case as well. So I have my discussion topic. I have my instructions of what I want my students to do here. It contains an activity, a video, but not much else. If I edit these instructions, every harmonized thing, or most harmonized things, I should say, peer review and document annotation and discussions and assignments, all has an instruction area. And you can see the content I've put in here already, but it also has a series of things across the bottom here. This one on the bottom, if I'm looking to add polls in context of other things, has an add poll feature. So I can click add poll here, and now I can be like, did you like this discussion activity? And then you can put in things like hated it, loved it, or whatever else you want. So now I am tacking on this poll question straight to my instructions that I had published for my students to do. So if I publish this change now, I have the video, I have the content, and then I have a poll question here for them to answer directly into the instructions. And this is we have instructors do this for that sort of feedback mechanism. We had some stats instructors do this as well, of like, vote this time, and we're going to take those results and we're going to analyze them in the next discussion section. So the instructor downloaded the results; they're anonymous as well.
Marcus, another type of question here. So if an instructor wanted to just record a video and then have the students interact with that video, how would be the best way to do that?
There's
Yeah.
a couple things I would say. So we have this, for example, let's take ASL example here, or let me pretend that this was an ASL video. And my instructions were telling my students to actually critique the ASL video. I want you to use the respond within video feature to watch the video. And Adrian just asked a demo annotation, so I can do that here. I can watch that video by clicking respond within video. It's going to create my own copy of the video. I was already authoring a post here, so it added it to it, but it's going to create my own copy of that video, and then I can watch that video. And at any point in time where I want to critique something, I can say plus respond, and then I can add a note here about this timestamp in the video. I can press play again and be able to do it again, say plus respond, respond to another point in the video as well. So this is how our video annotation features work. You notice I can draw on things as well. This is you could do this in an assignment, so you could give them a video to critique privately. You can do it in a discussion or small group discussion so that they can actually do this annotation and see each other's annotations, but they all get their own copy of it. When we are in the discussion and we're doing annotation, we think of it as my own critique that I am contributing to the discussion. So if I publish this guy now, it becomes, well, I was supposed to put a subject on it. Gosh, my subject type thing. When I submit this into the discussion, it is now my card that I've contributed to the discussion, and it has my own individual critique of the video where the students can then jump to that point in time and see what it is I said about the video. So this is how I would do, like, here's a video I want you all to deep critique, or but these same tools are available if every student submits a video as well. So if they all submit the nursing role play, they can all do that annotation to any video in the system as well.
Marcus, is there there is the ability to add this to Q&A boards as well, correct?
Yes, where are you going with that though?
She was the question was about like making announcements for the class and having the
Oh.
students interact with that announcement video. So I was just wanted to maybe even a Q&A board could be I don't know.
The only way I can see to do that is create a discussion that's called announcements and tell all of your students to click the watch topic button, which means they'll get notified when a new post goes into it. But it's not, I know what you're after there, which is you want it to pop up in the students' faces when they come into class so that you know there's announcements. We don't have the ability to do that. I think, and we probably won't because we won't have the ability to actually pop it up when it's topical. We would only be able to pop it up if they're inside of something that's harmonized. So if they're on a Canvas page and the date passes for the announcement, we wouldn't be able to get it in front of them. So we probably won't be building an announcement feature just because of the hooks that Canvas lets us do to sort of take over and pop things up in the screen.
What are you doing?
All right. Other questions for us? About 5 minutes left. Can this be an assignment? Okay, so Alexandra asks a great question. I would like a student to watch a video, and at a certain point, I want to pause it and have them answer questions before continuing viewing. Can this be an assignment? This sounds like there's this product called Play Pause It that allows you to do this, let you add sort of interactivity knowledge checks, pause the video, make them answer a question. We don't force that right now. So there's no way to do that. Helen pointed out that Canvas Studio can do that. So it's something you could probably do inside of Canvas Studio, but we don't automatically pause the video. You can self-critique a video, and we've had people do that. There was an ASL example again where they actually uploaded a video of American Sign Language, and then they made 3 points with commentary below it so they could encourage the students to, look at those particular points in the video, but then the student could still play the video straight through and it wouldn't pause at any of those individual points and make them ask questions. Okay. Questions? 4 and 5 minutes left. Going once, going twice. See, we did have a D2L user in there. So Angela for D2L, if for other folks as well, media site quizzing is something that allows that inside of D2L. I'm not familiar with that product, so can't comment on it much. But also on D2L, in case you came late, we are adding groups to D2L this fall. So keep your eyes peeled for that so you can actually break your students into group because D2L doesn't give us that data from the LMS currently. Excellent. In that case, I'll let y'all go 4 minutes early. I really appreciate y'all coming. I hope this was useful. Let us know if you want more of this type of things. Drop us a note, etc. Because we're trying to expand out the amount of training we're doing because there's just so much stuff out there to be able to interact with and use in your class that it's hard to sort of wrap your head around it all. And so this is one of our attempts at get beyond the discussion. Like what can you do with Harmonize that's not just discussion topics as well. So. If you were interested in that AI audio feedback thing, AI audio descriptions, reach out to me because I'm gathering feedback. I saw Carrie in there. I know you're big on accessibility front, especially not surprised you asked that question. So that's a great question. We are seeking feedback and info. I have examples I'm starting to be able to share with people of what it looks like as we're going into it. And the target is to have it there well before the new Title II Fed regulations come into play so that we can have audio descriptions for anything we've pushed instructors to do. There's an open question of whether we do it for students or not. We can, but there's a cost associated with it. So we want to talk to schools and see if that's something they want because the video processing and AI costs. It's a much larger order of scale of audio descriptions for student content as well. All right, David's going to send out the recording. He put that in the chat if you've registered, even if you didn't attend. And I will just extra plug. David, do you want to throw out your 2 special trainings for peer review and discussion that you have? If you have those links handy, otherwise you can send them in follow-up.
I'll send them in the email. Yep.
Okay. And I will give this plug, support@harmonizelearning.com. They can answer a million things about the product. So I dropped that email address into the chat for you. Excellent. All right. Thanks, everybody.